Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and today I want to continue the topic from last week, a core set retrospective, this time focusing on soldiers. Soldier is a term I use for a minion that appears 3 times in the 3 power slot, which is easy to remember because Soldier of the Giant Ants is a soldier. And if you think that's intentional, you'd be wrong, as I only connected the dots myself about 45 minutes ago. Soldiers are great because they offer upside while being likely to see one due to their high frequency. The average power of a minion is 3 in most factions, so the power is certainly respectable. But what about their abilities? How have they held up over time? Let's find out. First up is the Scout of the Aliens, which I grade a B. Scout has a great ability that is unfortunately in the wrong faction despite the thematic tied to returning. The simple truth is that aliens rarely care about breaking bases, so having perennial access to a minion doesn't really help them. In fact, the nature of invader bouncing means that your hand can get crowded, and scouts contribute to that, which means I will discard them sometimes, because all other alien minions are the invader or in service to the invader through stall. I still give it a B because aliens can't afford to miss out on points on bases, and the scouts do solve that, which is nice. If the scouts existed in another faction, I could easily see this ability going to an A or an S, and you can absolutely build a strategy around it. Finally, it loses a little bit of street cred for its dumb wording, but that doesn't really matter unless it does. Next is Armorstego of the Dinosaurs, which I give an F. Actually, F feels too high. I'm going to give it a V. Everything about the dinosaurs screams temporary power and power on your turn. 5 of their actions, especially their best one, care specifically about your turn. So why grant a power boost on someone else's? Ignoring the obvious anti-synergy, power on someone else's turn is generally a bad idea. It means I am helping you be more efficient, especially when I have no specials as dinosaurs. Every now and then, you come across people who say that Armorstego gave them an easy second over someone in multiplayer. But what they are really saying is that they gave someone else an easier first. This type of ability goes against everything that I say about power creep and implies a come-at-me strategy without equipping the dinosaurs to cement it at all. But here's an interesting wrinkle. In the right context, Armorstego could be great if you built an entire strategy around it. And I've designed things that take the lessons from Armorstego and make them work in a way that I absolutely love. But it requires fully committing to the idea when the dinosaurs commit to the opposite. So I give Armorstego a V as a result. Next up is Shinobi, which I give an A, but I'm being generous. Shinobis are great, but they are also problematic because they make the game anticlimactic on occasion. Also, the rest of the ninja cards are just lackluster, with Shinobi carrying the weight of the entire faction at times. But the ability is so clean, which makes rating it pretty hard. Honestly, the issue comes from the fact that there are 3 of them. I think Green Trooper is perfect. Maybe you have it, maybe you don't, maybe you've already used it. But Shinobi is too common for free points. You don't even have to try on some bases, and it's literally a free play. Amazingly, it's rare that I felt like Shinobi's once per base limitation was a drawback, since I'd rather get 2 cheap runner-ups. It's a great card, but carries too much of the ninja weight disproportionately. Next we have Saucy Wench of the Pirates, which I give a D. There are minions who are actionized in their faction, but Saucy Wench is actionized in better form, making her ability worse, and it's not that great to begin with. Power 2 destruction is really overrated unless you are targeting swarms, and if you cannot destroy anything, Saucy Wench and multiple pirate actions cannot do anything either. Saucy Wench would have been better off as a minion form of dinghy rather than a light cannon or broadside, because movement is always good, and would free up the pirates to play swashbuckling as an action while still moving. At least Saucy Wench doesn't go against the pirate strategy because she duplicates it, but unfortunately bad plus bad is bad. Next we have the Hoverbot, which I give an A. Hoverbot gets a ton of flexibility as it can play a minion anywhere, and even with 18 minions it can still miss. But when you chain Hoverbots into Zapbots, robots can be really fun. My only suggestion for Hoverbot is that it should continue my Zapbot theme of localization, because the global benefit of robots is honestly what puts them over the edge for me. Otherwise, it's a great card and one I wouldn't mind seeing again in an all-star context. For the Tricksters we have Gnome. Like Gremlin, Gnome is really hard to rate, so I give it a C, same as Gremlin. Gnome sets up Gremlin, and if it doesn't, Gremlin is pretty much a dead card. But Gremlin isn't in your best interest either. It's a lot of work to kill a Gremlin, usually 7 power, just to draw a card and have everyone else discard a card. The only reason I consider this is because the discard is random, but is that enough of a stall tactic to allow tricksters to compete? History says otherwise. Honestly, I think tricksters in general lack a real point to their minions, and we will definitely see this with Brownie, but I think I am generous as a C because future synergies do make Gnome work. At least he is optional, unlike Microbot Guard. For the wizards we have Enchantress, and one of the shortest non-blank abilities in the game. Draw a card. Drawing cards is great, but Enchantress is power capped at 2 power. This both helps and hurts wizards. It's great for synergy, but bad for the wizards themselves. I definitely don't think Archmage should be 4, but Enchantress as a 2, it does have its uses. This is why I'm inclined to give the Enchantress an A. There are times Neophyte is the right call, and times Enchantress is, making those two combine well, unlike Chronomage and Archmage. Would you still nerf Enchantress to 2 if you were making them today? It's certainly an interesting question. Finally, we have the zombies in Tenacious C, which I give an S. Even though the zombies are unbalanced, I don't blame Tenacious C, and I wouldn't change it today. Tenacious Z feels like it should be what it is, an incremental 2 power that you can always count on once you get going. I think the zombies are carried much more by their insane recursion. Paul Peterson once told us that he wondered if Tenacious Z should be a 1, but that basically asks what's the point. They have a heavily thematic and key cog in the zombie engine without being broken themselves, and there are ways to deal with them even in the core set, so I think they are great where they are. This week, the soldiers seem to hold up pretty well, unless they don't, but at least in that case they fail spectacularly. For the ones that stand out positively, they tend to be fairly unique and remain relevant today. How would you rate the soldiers in the core set? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.